I must convince my brother Miliardo to stop fighting against the Earth.
You're not capable of doing that. It's a crime to confine you within this antiquated cage-like foundation. I will be Romefeller's chief representative. I'll personally lead the battle to its conclusion.
Welcome back to Zaku Talk. I am your host, Pastor Skeyhill. This season, G versus Wing, and that means my co-host is the Shadow.
Bob Skerry. The Shadow?
The Shadow.
I didn't think you remembered, dead gentleman.
I thought about it just the other day, and I was just like, oh, man. Those are good times. All right, and of course on the audio boards is Lev Van Rensselaer. We're going to do episode 41 of both G Gundam and Gundam Wing this week, but before we get into that, Bob, how's your week been going?
Well, I have to say my week's been pretty okay. What have I had happen? Right after this recording, I'm going to be working with Mindy Pack, known inventor of the voice straw method, to try and further develop my voice acting skills. Did a lot of introspection this week to try and get myself moving, realizing some of my mental health shit. And that's a good thing. Just picked up some things that should hopefully be aids to keep me moving, like a to-do list pre-plotted out so I can check shit off. A self-compassion deck so that way I can start learning to love myself, because as hokey as it sounds, kids, it's important to love yourself. But yeah, other than that, just keeping on. What about you, Skeyhill? What's your week been like?
Oh, my goodness, Bob. Drama on
what kind of drama?
On this film set I'm advising and ADing on. It's just a big nightmare. People all mad at each other for reasons I don't understand and don't think are there.
Is your shoot going up next week or tomorrow rather?
No, their shoot finishes on Sunday, and then I have a shoot in 2 weeks that I'll be directing a TV pilot for me. Much less drama on that one.
So you have a TV pilot that you'll be directing?
I have a TV pilot I'll direct at the end of April, and then I help out on a smaller pilot next weekend. So busy okay. April for me. Some writing in there in between, always writing. Very important to just do a little bit of that every day. Okay, Bob, let's talk about... Well, let's go into the plot summary for episode 41 of G Gundam.
Certainly. Episode 41 of G Gundam. Battle Royale begins. Devil Gundam revived. Or, in Japanese, Battle Royale Kaishi. Fukatsu no Devil Gundam. Very clear what words are the Roman words, the Romanized words.
Yeah.
But Kaishi is... as it's translated, it's begins or beginning. Fukatsu is revival. So this would be Devil Gundam's revival. So we could use the no in the middle as a hyphen S, but they chose to just use the past tense here.
Okay.
Because there's really no time sense unless you choose to apply it based on context clues.
Correct.
Domon watches over Schwartz Kyoji in the hospital as Rain tries to reason with him while he goes to the Battle Royale. Rain sneaks in as a doctor and discovers that Schwartz is an android made up of DG cells. Rain's father also finds out since he's an expert in cybernetics. Meanwhile, Domon is fighting in the Battle Royale. He easily defeats Zeus Gundam, but the Devil Gundam claims Zeus Gundam and he comes back to attack Domon. The Devil Gundam rises and Master Asia issues a challenge to Domon. Miklot Chariot transforms into the Gundam Heaven Sword and starts an attack on Domon while Zeus Gundam holds Domon still. Pretty straightforward.
I almost forgot to watch these this week. I didn't realize I hadn't watched them until like an hour and a half ago.
So you did the Bob Scary method of watching it the same day.
Yeah, I woke up, I did sort of my little morning routine, and then I started playing like what my day would look like, and I'm like, all right, I'm going to have to do this podcast. And then I was thinking about it, I'm like, what will I talk about this week? And then I go, wait, what did I watch this week? And I was like, oh, shit. Yeah, this film set. All right, yeah. All right, episode 41 of Gundam Wing, we have Crossfire, Barge, very easily in the Japanese, Baruji Kobo-sen.
Correct. Kobo-sen is just battle. Okay. The way they translate it using Google Translate, because I don't speak Japanese. Baruji Kobo-sen becomes Battle of the Bulge.
Yes. So
definitely not Barge. It's the Bulge, apparently.
Yeah. But in the manga, they do have translated it Bulge. I can see how this might have happened in 1995. I actually like Barge as a better name for the fortress than Bulge.
Oh, I agree with you, because it's correct.
Bulge sounds a little silly, but Battle of the Bulge, yep, very famous World War I battle. I could get maybe why the original creators wanted to hint at that.
Oh, it's because I avert myself from war because of strong personal beliefs. I had no idea that there was a battle called Battle of the Bulge.
Yes, we can't avert ourselves to the thing we don't like, or they're just going to repeat ourselves, Bob. You know?
I know that's the point of this whole show.
Yeah, that's what I think they're referencing there. So what happens in this episode? It's a good question, Bob. Here's what happens. Treize dismisses Relina from her position as chief representative of the Rockefeller Foundation. It is hinted that she and Dorothy will both head for space, albeit separately, and Hero will as well, but not before Sally gives him Troa's Gundam heavy arms, which she has managed to recover from the Magwanaut Corps. When Duo, Troa, and Catra and Noin intervene in the White Fang's attack on Barge in hopes of finding out why Zex has declared war against the Earth, he makes his intentions quite clear by single-handedly destroying Barge with Epion's beam sword. Bob, I'm a little exhausted from this drama, Bob. So why don't you tell me what you want to discuss in G Gundam, and I'll tell you why I'm probably annoyed.
Breathe a bit. So I'm going to get one thing out of the way for you right now. Yeah. Some of the Neo space colonies.
One of them is like a ship in a bottle on a piece of land.
Yep. Although I will say, as silly as it may seem to some people, I like the one that is it has an underbuilding of a turtle with two elephants stacked on top of each other, which I could assume is Neo India or somewhere there on too.
It might be. It's actually 4. That actually is a famous.
It's a famous mythology piece, and that's part of where I think we've seen things like I think it's Earthsea. Or maybe it's whatever the Wheel of Time is a part of. They have their world, Discworld maybe, on the back of a turtle, and I think that's in reflection of this.
Yeah, so Russell Bertrand, famous philosopher, had this apocryphal story where a woman said, or he said, he's like an atheist, so he talked to this woman, and he said, if you think the earth is being held up by these elephants, what's holding them up? And she goes, well, a turtle. And then he says, okay, well, if the turtle's holding them up, what's holding up the turtle? And she goes, it's just turtles all the way down. And so this has become kind of
what?
Yeah, like a rhetorical kind of device when your argument has kind of reached sort of an illogical end, and you have to kind of find more illogical things to make it substantiate. Which, interestingly enough, as I'm saying this aloud, is sort of how I feel about this Kyoji reveal from last episode now getting justified with androidness and
well, I have
like
context
that.
For this.
Okay.
So remember, we're in 1994 right now, right? Not 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Did we start a little more than 20 years ago? We started seeing a surge of live action superheroes, and they were all cyborgs. I think that though they use the term android here, I think the implication should be closer to a cyborg conceit, because it appears that Kyoji is, at least in part, human-like, some sort of a living organism, and that's certainly in part due to the Devil Gundam's DG cells creating a false life, right?
Well, so what word do they use in the Japanese?
In the Japanese, they use android.
Okay. So
it is consistent.
So I come in and don't assume he's an android. In fact, I don't assume that the world has androids. But it seems not only does it have them, it has them so much that they had to make a rule in the tournament where you can't be an android pilot. So, fine.
That makes sense, though, right?
It does make sense, but like, we're on episode 41 of 48 or 49, and I didn't know androids were a thing, and it's a huge plot point. So, fine, whatever. It's G Gundam. But
yeah. Well, I'm going to stop you there because you're tired and you want me to get to some points. I'm going to continue with this for a second.
Well, can I just say that, one, I have no reason to think that he would be a cyborg now that they said android. So I don't think that there's organic matter. And not only that, I don't see any evidence of DG cells being in there anyway. So when they said that, I was like, what? How did we get there? Especially since I don't have reason to believe that it's the same Kyoji that was in the Devil Gundam. I am at a loss here. Okay, go on.
You say that, but whether or not you choose to cut this part out, Skeyhill, in fact, this is the episode before we find out certain things that explain everything that you're having problems with.
Great. It would be... I'm not in a happy place with these two episodes, but go on. We'll see how it all resolves.
Yeah. Well, we're getting to the point where this is actually everything that I do like about this series. We're getting to a lot of the things that have stuck with me for the past, nearly 20 years.
The big, giant, spooky monsters?
So, I mean, I've been watching this since I was about 15 years old. I'm 33 right now. So it's been nearly 20 years for me. Yeah, big spooky monsters, and big spooky rubber monsters.
And it has like this, like, it's almost like a zombie-like quality too, which I know people love. We love our zombies.
So it's funny that you mentioned zombie because I was going to start making the connection of how the DG cells effectively act as a zombie undead thing. And I'm not looking at this from like 28 Days Later or any of these like chemical based zombies, even though this is a technology because we're applying this Judeo-Christian mythology to our big monster and our hero mecha, right? God and the devil. What is one thing that the devil would supposedly do? Open the gates of hell and allow the dead to rise, allow the dead to come willingly through and wipe the earth clean. So it's being clear enough for those who would make these connections. And even if not, I think back to something like Digimon. Yes, we're going here now.
All right. I like Digimon, back in the day.
In the second season of the first series, I'm using air quotes here, kids, we do have a period where there are these digital entities. They aren't necessarily Digimon. They just live in this world. And they have to explain how the stronger the light gets, the stronger the darkness gets. And it's going to be in a constant state of movement to try and reach equilibrium. It's one of the first times in my life that I started understanding Zen Confucianism and other parts of like Zen Shintoism is really where it would come into play here. It's a prominent religious ideology in Japan and something I'm going to start teaching myself. But the idea here, whether or not a kid who is watching this series understands it, they are picking up these questions. And if the show doesn't offer anything, back in the day, we would go to the library and teach ourselves a thing, or we would start looking for more media at our local video store. Is my take on this.
Hollywood Video was my local video store.
I had, when I was living in Webster, Massachusetts, there had been a movie store down along one of the main streets, and they had 5 videos for 5 nights for $5. That was an amazing deal. And my mom gave clearance to the guy who owned the store that, I could pick up R-rated movies on her behalf because she didn't walk around or whatever. And it was really just licensed to let me watch horror movies.
Yeah.
Anyway, getting super off topic. Zombie equals DG cell here. And what I was trying to get at earlier was this whole android cyborg thing is just another head nod to Tokusatsu. He is the common rider to our Shuffle Alliance Super Sentai. He is literally a masked individual who hides his identity in order to fight using the abilities given unto him by the bad guys.
Okay, and these are usually two separate types of shows?
These are generally two separate shows made by the same group, Toei.
Okay.
And Toei, I believe, has a good working relationship with Sunrise, if I recall.
Probably.
So with that all in mind, it's not far-fetched to think of this Super Robo show as having the elements of the two primary tokusatsu-style shows as part of its storyline, even considering the fact that Kamen Rider had been a dead property at this point.
We get to the finals at long last. They explain the rules. I was very happy about that. I know what's going on. It's all Gundams we are familiar with. They are all opponents of Domon. Domon's undefeated status proved to be not really important here. Then Domon makes quick work of Zeus Gundam. Zeus Gundam, sadly...
He only does the one. He only gets the one before getting hit up. He finds the other two bodies, and apparently, at least per the implication that I have on my side, it's that oh god, I'm forgetting the guy who actually pilots the Zeus Gundam, but that individual, being corrupted by DG cells, just outright murdered the individuals inside. The implication from Domon's perspective was that we saw him effectively kill this individual inside his robot, and we were trying to go to the old samurai style vibe with the way he does it. And then when he comes back out, oh my god, why did it who utterly wrecked these things? They went beyond the means to have to win. They went for murder. We have our murder zombie.
Yes. We're ready to go there. I bet those guys will be back soon as well. We get you don't why would they not want to infect all of them?
I'm not saying that it's unlikely. I'm saying that with the way that I'm going to keep forgetting his name, the way Zeus Gundam's pilot wrecked that.
Yeah,
I don't know if there's enough left of the pilots to regenerate.
So this is a bad plan by Devil Gundam. If you want more fodder, don't murder them too quickly.
Well, he's just I'm not trying to imply a thing here. The Devil Gundam is just trying to absorb as much energy as it can, whether that's a dead soul or trying to sap it out of something that's still living until it allows itself to be infected. Either way, it's getting the energy it needs to destroy and replicate. So
these guys get infected, but then aren't under control of the Devil Gundam?
The two that we saw smashed, I do not believe.
Yeah, but so Zeus is infected, but is now renegade. He gets to do whatever he wants. Devil Gundam doesn't care.
He's more like a pawn compared to the other two that are a little more stable.
The Italian guy and the English guy?
Yes, the John Bull Gundam and the Neros Gundam pilots.
Okay.
Gentle Chapman and Michelob
Light. Yes. They came back.
So, those two are two of the supposed four Gundam Kings.
The Dark Kings.
Or the four,
English
Dark Kings, Devil Kings.
Yep.
So we have those two. We have Master Gundam, piloted by Master Asia.
Yep.
And then we have a fourth that hasn't been defined yet.
Okay. Yes. Been waiting for that. Master Asia summons the other two via lightning, even though they're already there.
Kinda.
Okay.
They were probably down beneath in the island along with the Devil Gundam, as they are effectively a part of it at this point.
Yeah.
And so he uses the lightning for drama because it looks cool.
It does look
bursting out of the Statue of Liberty. It looks cool.
Yes, and it looks like we're going to get some, I guess we've been setting it up, but Master Asia and Wolfat both want control of the Devil Gundam. I bet that could go somewhere interesting. So,
and it will.
Yeah, that adds a nice wrinkle to what could have been a simpler story. And it looks like Rain's father, who was a nice man all series, now secretly evil. Is that what I'm supposed to take away?
Well, what makes you say that?
Mostly the way the English voice actor portrayed it after the doctors left and he was alone with Kyoji's body.
Okay, so that might have been a tonal thing because while the scene does set itself to be what is he about to do when he's going to try and touch the face again after they've left, the tone is not necessarily one of evil. It's definitely one of curiosity.
Yeah, would fit better and make more sense when we go like, what? But the voice actor sort of hammed it up there, and he was like, and I'm like, all right, how did we get here?
Yeah, that sounds like a bad choice on the voice actor's part, because comparatively, we're not going to learn anything of import that might suggest that until the next episode.
That's fine. And they're hinting at it too, so I have to be like, but
yeah,
it just feels a bit too much of a 180.
Yeah,
for him,
and it is.
Okay, great. So I'm glad there. But overall, I guess when I came in, I thought we were going to get a little more Battle Royale before this happened. But if they're all opponents that Domon's defeated, and we've already kind of had 2-on-2 or 1-on-2 battles anyway.
That's exactly it.
I'm not sure what more you could do with all that. So yeah, just get to this Devil Gundam thing and have it be a big pain in the ass, so it takes a while.
I'm pretty sure that this is why Domon was trying to aim for top slot, because since he's already top dog, it's not everybody needs to pile on top of. It's trying to climb the charts between each other. And by seeing our 4 other members of the Shuffle Alliance pair off with each other, it shows, their respect and the sincere rivalry between them, to prove that they are capable enough, because the other ones are chumps.
Yeah, we got some of the opening animation in the actual show this week at the beginning. Did you notice that?
I skipped the opening.
No.
I've been skipping the opening.
Well, so in the opening credits, there's like a shot of Saisashi looking out at the ocean. There's a shot of...
Yes.
Yeah, and then there's a American guy, and he's like at a cafe with his ladies, and he's looking up, and like those shots were actually in the show this week. The opening shot of Argo is like in a jail cell. I think that might be a better thing to put in the opening credits. I think that's better than him just sort of in a crowd being like, hey... Because it tells us more about him. Even his hands are like so low down, we can't see the cuffs in him in the crowd. So that would be some art direction I would look at.
It's definitely not that you have picked your favorite of the non-Domon part of the Shuffle Alliance by now.
I mean, it's definitely my favorite, but that's not what it is. It's like Saisashi looking over the ocean and him with his with the American guy with his peeps. There's a little bit of characterization we get out of there, and that's what these Japanese opening themes do so well that I wish Americans would borrow more. But Argo's, I don't even remember what George's are, quite frankly. But
it doesn't matter, because just like George's farewell to his princess as he goes off, it's the one note. And remember... at the very beginning of all this, when I started trying to color code everybody, it's literally this episode that I've realized that our yellow, who is also our person who gets the least development, is George Descend.
He leaves his lady. He tosses a rose perfectly in her hair as he goes away. But
it's all honor, duty, honor.
It must be nice, George. For the Descend family, I will blah, blah, blah. I gotcha. But just art-wise, if you have the opening credits and you're trying to tell us who these people are, showing him in the crowd tells us that he's tall. That's all we get. But him in the jail cell, and he gives a look to the camera, we see this sudden look in his eyes, tells us everything we need to know right there. 30 seconds, we're done.
I do feel like, while you're correct there, I don't think that we necessarily have to leave the option that we have in the current opening credits. I think that it just needs to be framed a little differently.
How would you frame it?
Well, the way that we're seeing Argo is that he is easily picked from a crowd. He will never be able to run away from the crime that he has committed, apparently, and therefore will always be on the chase. I would, in this case, just try to do something with the lighting of the cells to try and really point out who he is among the crowd, make it look like a searchlight from in a jail yard, and it creates the same effect. He is going to, as long as he is alive, be under lock and key by the Russian government.
I don't think it creates the effect because that's too intellectual. The audience has to think too much. They wouldn't feel... I don't know. They wouldn't feel the criminality or his trappedness, I think.
No, and that's I'm totally with you. I'm just trying to see if there's a way that we can save money on our budget for all the other things that we're trying to change here.
That's it. I don't know.
Okay. Nothing else?
Domon seems unsure, despite having looked at his brother, that it might not be his brother, which seems like a tall order. And Rain, for some reason, being a doctor, helps her put on a disguise and sneak into the hospital.
Well, she has credentials, so she's fine to use her credentials if necessary.
Like, can I see? And she's like, here's my doctor badge. And they're like, okay. And I don't know if a doctor badge exists, but if they gave me that moment, I'd be fine. But the guard tries to stop her, and she's like, I just want to see the patient. And he's like, okay, I did see you 30 minutes ago with Domon, but I don't remember you now that you have a sexy nurse outfit on.
She's made down and doesn't have her ostentatious earrings. It's clearly a different person.
Okay, yes. So
Also,
yeah.
I'm going to make 2 more points about this.
Yeah.
1, benign racism.
What? Why?
German individuals in Neo-Hong Kong just hand-waving everything at this multi-international thing. It's everybody who's not part of my group, they're the same fucking people. Just fucking go. You have the suit. I believe you.
I mean, that feels like a stretch, but go on.
Well, you can cut it out then if it feels
I'll leave
like
it in. I just feel like it's a stretch. But you might be right.
But the other thing here is that we are able to see... Oh God, I fucking lost it. Can you bring us back to the point? It was you said the whole changing thing, right?
Yeah, it changes into a disguise.
Yeah, it changes into a disguise. I feel like this is everything that she needs to begin with. They've dressed her down to be less of a doctor and more of a nurse. Oh, that's what it was. On my side, it's a very like she doesn't sound panicky. It's just I'm just here to do the rounds, the regular checkup. And then she gets waved off. Yeah. Like it's not nearly as, oh God, did they figure me out? Which is what I'm assuming her read was on the English side.
No, not quite. She does sound a little nervous, but she, just keeps delivering the line. They're like, all right, you can go through. But when he stops her first, we're supposed to be like, uh-oh. And then she gets to...
Yeah, well, when she gets the guns pointed at her, like anybody would be like, I'm just going in.
No faults there. But if she had just said, Domon, you've got to worry about the battle royale. I'll go and I'll sneak in. Then I would have been fine with all this. Bringing out the doctor was much, but also, and she might have said this and I just forgot over all these weeks, but I knew she was a doctor. I just thought she was like some kind of science doctor.
No, this is all the way back to the Neo Turkey episode.
Oh, yes, that's right. That guy. Yeah, okay, it's coming back.
Yeah, and she's proven herself on more than one occasion to do physician work, but she's the daughter of a genius. She is capable of body work, both on the physical and on the mechanical. Yeah,
well, you can understand why I would forget.
Oh, yeah, no, 100%. Also, it's the 1990s. If you're a doctor, you're good at everything. Yeah. This is what I would call Ben Carson syndrome.
Yeah, that's a good analogy there.
Yeah. But I feel like I've dragged it out enough on G Gundam side. What about Gundam Wing? How about that opening?
Yeah, we finally get our new opening. Like I said in the pre-show, I think we do get it a bit early. They were trying to... I think they want to hold off for so long.
Early?
I think I would do it one episode later because what they're trying to have it set up kind of the final battle lines. We've changed and changed and changed everything. And in this episode, we reveal that it's going to look like that what's a show that started off with Gundams against Oz is now Zex leading space against the Earth led by Treize, and the Gundams are in the middle trying to not let it get out of hand. And now that we've kind of got that stage set, like we kind of just go towards the end game, then I would you'd be able to put all that in the opening credits there. But not only do we need this episode to get Treize back on center stage, but also we then use the theme song when Zex destroys Bulge again.
I know, I was going to bring that up.
So that's another reason why I would put it just one episode later. Just a little. You're already in this.
I think that's fair.
Yeah. But I think that was sort of what the goal was. Like they didn't want you to know Zex was going to be in the Epion and start fighting Hero because they had been rivals and then somewhat with the same goals for a while, and now they seem to not.
Yeah, I have to say, you said something during the episode description earlier about how it's very clear what Zek's intentions are.
Well, yeah, by that I meant that they were like, he must be doing this for a good reason. He might not really hate the Earth, and there's going to be a big reveal, and he's just like, nope, fuck it, Earth's going down. So that's what I meant by what his intentions were.
So that's interesting to me, though, because, again, this is, I think, a difference in the read. Okay. I know that you already know everything that's coming up in the next 8 episodes.
I'd like to hear your opinion, or your read.
On the Japanese side, his read and the way that it's translated leaves a lot for interpretation. Mm-hmm. It is one of those situations that I've become accustomed to watching anime and tokusatsu, where if you want to have someone look like the villain for now, you let them do the phrasing that you would often assume somebody would do in a be careful what you wish for situation. Mm-hmm. It is very open enough to interpretation that in the moment he is making sure to have everybody on their toes, walking on eggshells, so that later on when they have to do whatever their part in this game is, they're going to do it. If he let everything out to Noin right now, she would not be able to act on it in a way that would help to translate to the rest of the kids. And so there would be greater losses for whatever is about to happen.
What we take away now is we're still not sure why this man who we last saw trying to keep his kingdom from floating and dealing with Lady Un long ago, trying to set up peace in space, has now decided to lead the whole space revolutionary forces. It seems some people doesn't come out of nowhere, but you are sort of surprised that he would do this, and we get to now take the time to figure out, like, what happened to this man? What broke him? So that we don't know, but we do know that Noin does find out that at least, or she believes in this episode now that Zex does just want to start war with the Earth and his sister, and that sort of leaves her at a loss because it doesn't feel to her like the Zex she knows.
That's very true. I want to point out something using the color theory that can be applied here. At the very beginning, we've always known Zex to be in his char red stuff, and can even be seen in the Epion at this point. Yep. Based on the coloring, versus Treize, who has always been identified with his blue overcoat, his regal attire. Yep. Now that we have a literal red versus blue situation, not only does it paint things very clear, it's also a matter of it's a rivalry aspect. This might call back to a lot of the things that we'd seen earlier with Treize in his romanticizing of what war actually means. And now that he is no longer under house arrest, he's able to put himself into a position where he can play the game with his best cohort and compatriot.
Yeah, his old buddy.
Yeah, well, this is also a great opportunity to use the powers of both sides to eventually come to a place where they can, because they're both in cahoots with each other, make a peace after a war has been fought to show why war is bad. They're going to start, I theorize, pulling back on the use of the mobile dolls to show the actual horrors of this war and stop allowing people to think that this is an easy throwaway thing. And the kids in their Gundams are going to be the heroes that convince both sides to work with each other.
So some things to consider. It's a fair read with the evidence we have. Might be right, might be wrong. Who knows?
Yep.
So things to consider is something about Zex declaring war on Earth. Last episode gave us a little moment where Treize sort of puts on his coat, goes out the doors. Some plan. It seemed to spur him to action there. He then also goes to the higher up, the executive staff of the Rockefeller Foundation, and says, "All right, I'm in charge now." And he points guns at them, and he's like, "Let's get Relina out of here." And then he tells her himself.
Oh, he points guns at them?
Yeah, he doesn't, but like his soldiers do.
I didn't remember seeing guns on my side, so I don't know.
Yeah, he comes in with the apparently survivors of the Treize faction. He's like, "Okay, I'm back. Let's do things my way now, huh? Let's deal with this Zex problem once and for all." And because he says, or Wayward says, like, "Oh, how could I let this happen?" Because he used to be an advisor to King Peacecraft, It's like, how gotta let them get to war? And Zex is like, and Treize comes in, he's like, well, I'll take care of that for you. Let's get her out of here. Problem solved. Then he goes to Relena in it's a surprisingly well-directed scene for a show almost infamous for an excessive use of stock animation, that they put so much effort into this. We have this red palette. We have these kind of frightening angles as Relena seems alone in this like haunted mansion kind of thing. Very shallow focus that racks as she's looking around. And then she gets to go in with Treize, and we have this kind of high angle there and this dual shot with them that transforms in the middle of it to give us an interesting kind of coverage that you wouldn't do in live action, but doesn't annoy me as much in animation as I was surprised by. And then he's like, and she's like, okay, that's fine. You can be king now, Treize, I guess, but I just want to stop my brother first. And he's like, you can't do that. Let me handle this. You go and be free. He opens up a window and says, be free, do whatever you want. So just some things to keep in mind, why he might have wanted to do all this now, why it was the good opportunity. In the manga, interestingly, he doesn't talk to her directly. Dorothy goes to her and was like, hey, they took a vote. You're not queen anymore. And Relena's like, but I have to stop my brother. And she's like, well, I'll get a spaceship. Let's go to space. And that's how that goes. But Treize says more to the executive staff. He says, you will trample on her feelings, referring to Relena. You will trample on her feelings no longer. As long as she is politically exploited, then she cannot be herself. And that's why she wants to let Queen Relena go free.
That makes perfect sense to me. I can 100% buy that.
So this is where we get to see, this is also how we see the death of Tubarov and Dermail that I hinted at last episode, because in the manga, the attack of the space fortress happens. The Tubarov is able to escape because they're stuck on he and Dermail are captured in the moon base. Some of their soldiers kind of free them from the White Fang. They go to the control room, and Tubarov's doing his stuff on the computer like in the show because he wants to take back control of the White Fang's mobile dolls. And then is able to do that, and then Dermail's like, all right, we can get out of here now, right? Because we've done the thing, and this place is like under attack. Because then then Treize, before he's taken control of Romefeller, is now kind of reaching out to all the old Oz soldiers, and he's like, hey, if you still believe in what I have to say, go kill Tubarov right now, he's on the moon base. And they're like, yes, sir. And then they do it, and that's how they die that way.
Oh, that's wonderful. I love that.
Yeah. And Cans is leading the assault on Barge, but they've lost control of the mobile dolls now that the lunar base is destroyed by Treize. They can't get control of them back. But then Sadici comes with the Libra, and from there they're able to reprogram the mobile dolls. The Libra fires on Barge, so it's not Zex with his big old beam sword destroying the whole thing by himself. So that gives it a little more credence. Zex helps and he destroys kind of the control center, but like they in tandem destroy it that way. What else? Oh, Catra and Noin are not yet reunited with Duo and Troa. So they're just like watching the battle and they're like, let's sit this one out. We're clearly no match for them. Our suits aren't even retrofitted for space yet. That's sort of
okay. That's all stuff. I will make the note though that I think in the anime it is very interesting that Zex is intentionally trying to get the kids to square up in the path of the beam that is being shot.
Yes. To
try and make it look good for his side when they shoot their 80% shot directly in the way of a colony filled with civilians. For those of you at home, this is against the Geneva Convention.
Yeah, in the Gundam universe, in the original Gundam universe, as well as it seems here, it is called the Antarctic Treaty. Yeah, there is some tacticianing.
So the Penguins united everybody in trying to make sure that we don't kill each other.
Well, they wanted to have all these sort of leaders of nations meet in a place where nobody was favored. So nobody lives in Antarctica, so they're like, here we go. And it's, I guess in the future, it's easier to make it habitable for meetings.
That's fair.
That's the best I can offer you.
No, hey, if they're going to one of the research stations down there and they can avoid being met by the thing, then everything's fine.
Yeah, and I don't know why it happens in this one. In the original Gundam, it happens because the space people dropped a colony on Earth. And after that wiped out a good chunk of the Earth population, they said, okay, we got to find some rules for this war. Shall we do that? So that's how that happens in that universe. Here, it just looks like a nod to the old show after they took their little dalliance with G Gundam. One other thing I wanted to add, I don't remember what it is now. There's a little Easter egg to the original Gundam. One of the people working at Bulge is named Sailor. It looks like just like Sailor Mass, who the original Gundam also had a brother and sister on opposite sides of the war. Char had a sister who was Sailor Mass in the show, very popular character. And so there's a woman there with the blonde hair. Looks just like her. It's crazy.
Yeah. Oh, okay. That makes sense then.
And yeah, so what's interesting here is that Bulge was built by funding purely from the colonies. And the colonies very unhappy about it because it was meant to be a thing to oppress them.
Yeah.
And so they're like, we're paying for the big Death Star thing that you're using to keep us in control. And the Earth was like, yeah. So you can sort of complain about it, but we do have the Death Star thing now. So I'd watch your mouth. But now, like the Gundam pilots and somewhat us don't want Zex to destroy this symbol of oppression. It has now become like the last resistance of keeping the Space Revolutionary Forces to unifying fully to have enough resources to now attack the Earth. So this is another one of the interesting positions that the show puts us into as it asks us to evaluate our usual liking of notions such as good versus evil in these war stories. And that's all my thoughts on Gundam Wing this week. If you had any others, we can talk, or we can go the way we go.
Well, let me just do a little rundown of Wing in my head. So we really don't see much of Hero.
No, yes, here's the thing I like, is that what this show can do is that getting realistic robo, it's nice when getting into space is a pain in the ass. Yeah. So he can't just like fly into space. He always has to steal a spaceship to do it. He has to kill a bunch of people to do that. Sally Poe is delivering the heavy arms off of her carrier plane, and a dude has to be there to like help it back up with the runway light thing. Just little details like that I'm a big fan of. What's your thing?
Yeah, well, here's the thing that I'm surprised you didn't bring up.
Yeah.
Sally Poe is a tell in a show don't tell medium. Mm-hmm. If she had not had her little soliloquy of how apparently Hero has changed, if you cut that half a minute of dialogue, we don't necessarily see that there is a direct change in Hero. At least in the Japanese, his read, if you look for it, is a little softer. But other than that, it's the same shit he would have said any other way, and he's just not adding a get out of my way. That's the only difference. Well, so it takes 30 seconds of dialogue from Sally Poe to be like, oh, hey, this kid's having his character arc finish up soon. Neat.
Yeah, they do it bluntly, but maybe they have to because it is tough to see. But what she's kind of referring to is that in the beginning, he was just like, everybody get out of my way. I'm doing this. It's going to be done. Yeah. But now she's like, hey, I have this thing. I want to help. And he's like, yeah, okay. We can be teammates. That sounds good. Like, I think that's what she's hinting at when she says he's approachable, where he's now seeing potential allies here and is not distrusting of everybody and everything and is in the path to completing his missions. But
all right, that was the only thing that I wanted to make sure I got out of me before we ended.
It's a very fair point. It's something I would look at in the future.
But let's go the way we go.
Like sand through the hourglass, this is the way that we go.
So there's always a moment that sort of was fascinating to me, even early on when watching this, where Queen Merlina is relieved of her duties. She's been in this queenly outfit for a while, and he's like, all right, you can go back. And now she's back in the outfit she's been in, like, in episode 1. Mm-hmm. And you're like, oh, yeah, she's a 15-year-old girl.
Which is really interesting when you consider the way that she's drawn just before she meets up with Treize. She looks like she's aged a fair amount.
It's the way the hair is. It's the outfit. It's like the demeanor she carries herself
expressions.
With. Yes, exactly. Like, that is fascinating to me. But what it led me to spur on many, many years ago was like, I liked this idea of like, you were queen of the world, the whole world, and everybody cared about what you said, and now you're just like a person. And like, how weird of a transition that must be, and what is it like to go back to that lifestyle? And forever, I've been trying to make a movie, you know, like all these kind of big action or fantasy movies, like the hero, like maybe Final Fantasy VII made me think of this, where like you go and you've like reached your pinnacle and you've saved the world and you've been on this adrenaline rush for like weeks as you've been doing this movie, and like then what? How do you adjust afterwards? Like, I would want, like, my first 10 minutes or first half hour, first act to be them saving the day. And then, like, what's the adjustment? Did the love interests, were they really in love? Or was it, like, the heat of the moment? You know, is one guy kind of addicted to adrenaline now, and now he's doing all this dangerous stuff? Do some of the people don't handle being famous very well? I would love to make a story like that. That would be very interesting territory to explore.
Well, let's do what Tarantino and Thurman did, and instead of being Q and U, let's be P and B. I want to work with this concept because as you were talking about it, I could see a bunch of the scenes in my head already.
Yeah. So it's one of my earliest film ideas, and it's something I just haven't been able to unlock fully yet. I tried.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to go.
My thesis in my undergraduate attempted to do a very small version of it. Ultimately, I wasn't allowed to do that, so I had to do the one that you were in, Breathful. So, but it would have been nice to kind of explore that other thing.
Well, hopefully, if nothing else, dear listeners, you've heard it here first. Patrick Skeyhill has a wonderful script idea. If you have a dad who works in the industry, tell him to contact Patrick Skeyhill. They've got a wonderful idea that they're probably going to turn into a Rock movie, and we'll just run with it.
The Rock is playing Black Adam in this upcoming movie. When I went to that costume shop many weeks ago, there was a whole room dedicated to all the Black Adam costumes that they were renting out of that place.
Okay.
But now he is sort of arguing with WB that he's like, okay, I get full creative control over the DC universe.
What?
Yes. Yeah, he thinks that he's going to be the saving force of the DC universe, that he then wants to have complete control over everything that happens afterwards.
Okay. You know, incredulous reaction aside, I can buy that. Because he's not talking about the comics.
No.
And I have my own feelings about the comics. He's talking about the films.
Yes.
And as far as the live action film universe, yeah, DC is generally weaker than Marvel, at least per the formula. And other than the side story that they just recently did for Harley Quinn, most of the things that haven't been Batman property based generally been pretty bad. So everybody's trying to chase after the Christopher Reeve style Superman vibe whenever they do Superman, but they can't because they don't get what Superman's doing on the film side because they're not actually conferring well enough, I would say, with the writers of the actual comics. Ad infinitum with things like Green Lantern and what have you. I feel like if you had The Rock say he's taking the helm, when in actuality what he's doing is he's delegating, I could buy that because he knows action films well enough and he knows that the writers of these comics know their characters. It's an A to B connection right there. That makes sense to me.
I don't know. That feels a bit of, I don't know what he's going to do or why he wants to have control, but he has humbly referred to himself as franchise Viagra in his negotiations with WB. We'll see where that goes. Doesn't matter to me at all because I don't want to watch him either way. So
yeah, there you go.
if people think they're good or bad, I don't give a shit. Where did you go this week, Bob?
Well, I think the place that I went to was, why is it that we had to talk about these two prior villain fights that we had? The one with the clown and then the one with the snake. To literally just watch them do whatever their mode of transportation from mainland Hong Kong to this island. You get to see the cool thing and then just watch them be wiped from existence. It was a moot point, other than to remind us that they were individuals that were on the higher end of the wind structure.
Yeah, they needed to be sacrificial lambs, Bob. That was their whole point, is that they were
NPCs. But I would have liked at least a moment where we actually saw the pilots and not just the mecha.
No, fuck them.
It was sort of an empty promise of fight. It's the same thing when you look at other anime that do prep you up to believe that there's going to be someone there, and then you snuff them out. That feels more earned than just, hey, here's these robots that could have anything inside, even another robot.
Or a horse. Who knows?
It seemed like a waste. We could have just had lip service and not wasted any footage.
You needed to see them go there if you're going to kill them off later. So I'm not like, what are they doing there?
I guess. And then also the understanding that we've gone to Mortal Kombat now.
Yeah.
Like before, I don't know how it is that Domon was doing things like heat ending a bunch of these Gundams in the main tournament, where you could destroy the Gundam as long as the pilot was safe, everything was cool. But we literally watch, I don't know if they cut the visual on your side or not, but at least on my side, we see a little heart monitor next to...
Yes, we do.
Yeah, and it flatlines.
Yeah.
So we know that he is deceased. And we're to presume that everybody on this island is at least going to be incapacitated to a great deal of pain, if not outright killed. Why is this okay, Wan Yun Fat? I know you don't care, but what about the people? They're literally just chanting this on. And this is almost like a, I don't want to liken this to, oh God, what was it? Battle Royale, the film of
the film and
2000 fame. Yeah. I feel like there's something off here that I didn't get initially that I'm getting right now on the first time around. And it was a shock to me that, oh, hey, we're just saying deathmatch is fine here. Literal gladiatorial match.
The last match was a death match.
Ruler of space.
This is what I was complaining about. Yes, last match was a death match. And I said, why don't people complain? But every time I brought this up, it's just like Wolfat gets to do the rules. And you're like, well, so here I'm just thinking like, yeah, Wolfat's doing the rules. And not only that, he can really do whatever he wants because he thinks this Devil Gun is going to come out and he's going to be like, all right, who wants to fuck with me now? And they're like, ooh, sorry, yeah, do it.
Oh, well, I'm not going to say much more than this. I can't wait for you to see the Walter Gundam.
You know what I liked in Gundam Wing is that Duke Jamil didn't have a Gundam. Doesn't know how to pilot, never piloted, doesn't have a Gundam. They need sex in his robot. Like, I like that there are villains that don't, and Verlina doesn't pilot. I like that there are people working on a different stage.
I think I've had enough time hanging out here, going the way I go. I want to go a little further to the nerd corner.
Let's take a walk to the nerd corner, where we will talk about a lot of nerd stuff. Yeah.
You had brought up this phrase not too long ago, and it's interesting because it's the name of what my nerd corner property is. There's a book I've been reading, Ad Infinitum. It is a biography of the Latin language. Starts from the kind of other languages that grew into Latin and some of the political forces that allowed the Roman state to rise and why it would have kind of adopted a lot of these other language quirks. And then kind of how its language then spreaded through and devolved into the other Romance languages and affected even some non-Romance languages. It's very fascinating. It's written by Dr. Nicholas Osler, famed world linguistics expert. About 10 years ago, I read his other book, Empires of the Word, which sort of goes over just about every language spoken by, a sizable enough population in the history of the world, and talks about like where they came from and why they're not around anymore, or like what their remnants of their presence is like. So this is just a much more specific and detailed one, specifically on Latin and the languages before and after. It's definitely worth a read, though admittedly the subject matter is extremely niche.
Well, before we go away from yours, I just wanted to point out that I didn't know that a language could have a biography.
Yeah, I know.
But I like the titling. So I have a sort of A plot, B plot for my nerd corner here.
Mm-hmm.
A plot. I have backed what will be effectively a closed Kickstarter by the time our listeners hear this, but I'm sure they have a backer kit by the time it comes around. Solemn Veil.
Yes.
Solemn Veil is a wonderful tabletop role-playing game that is based on the conceit of folk horror. The setting is 1970s England, and the idea is that it is a story-driven role-playing game where you deal with the weird and awful things that lurk in the hearts of tight-knit communities and the woods surrounding people. Folk horror is very well known. There is a Devil's Unholy trilogy of films from the 1970s, the most prominently known of them being The Wicker Man, one of the pinnacle known ones. But there's also The Blood on Satan's Claw and The Witchfinder General. Those three are like peak folk horror, but then there are other things like The Witch, Midsummer, A Field in England, I believe it's called, and a Kill List. These are all wonderful pieces of folk horror, and if you haven't seen them and you're a fan of horror and or film, I highly recommend you go check those out. Even if you haven't seen or heard of these things before, I highly recommend you look at this Kickstarter. It is a gorgeous looking book. A lot of great detail has been put into it. Highly recommended. The B plot. I haven't picked up the book yet, but I am going to in the near future be picking up both the Book of Five Rings and Dokudo. Both of these are writings and teachings by Miyamoto Musashi. They are effectively the Book of Five Rings was very popular in the 80s and early 90s for people who wanted to be amazing in the business world, down with capitalism. The Book of Five Rings is a great book or series of teachings to read through to allow you to come to terms with things like accepting your death in the realm of being a warrior, to accept life in all its forms, and to live a very stoic style life, to use the Western terminology here. The Dokudo is literally the last writings of Miyamoto Musashi before he died in a cave as an ascetic. So both of these are great philosophical reads, especially if you're a weeaboo like myself, where I've been looking for more philosophy and spiritual and mental guidance. I'm going to lean into the Eastern side of things for a bit before I start picking up other pieces from other philosophers down the line.
All right, yes, you can fill your soul with those wonderful reads there. All right, I would like to thank Lev Van Rensselaer for helping on the audio boards this week. I would like to thank my co-host this week, as he will be each and every week this season, Bob Skerry. Bob, you got any plugs?
Hey, hi, Worldwide Sentai. This is Bob Skerry VOA coming at you from Zaku Talk HQ. You can find me on Twitch, Twitter, Instagram, and a slew of other places by my handle, Bob Skerry VOA. You can also find me at bobskerryvoa.com to listen to my demos because I am, in fact, a voiceover artist.
And I am your host, Patrick Scale. You can find my features, documentaries, short films, video essays, animations, behind-the-scenes footage, and so much more at QuixoticUnited.com and social media, presumably, with a similar-sounding name. Bob, tell the audience why you don't trust your coat.
My coat is nothing like my denim jacket, the only outer covering any single person needs in non-snowy weather.